everyone. Welcome to the podcast series, What's Your Story by Sashakt Entrepreneurship Committee, DMS IIT Delhi. Today, we have with us Mr. Mahavir Chopra, sir, founder and CEO of Beshak, which provides transparent and unbiased advices on insurance, which is one of the more often heard but least understood term. He is a chartered accountant with a degree from Narsee College of Commerce and Economics and Insurance Institute of India. He has over 20 plus years of corporate experience with top organizations such as EY, Thomascook, medimanage, Marsh and coverfox in the areas of finance and accounts, online insurance, retail insurance, both life and health across positions ranging from director, vice president to chief business officer, chief financial officer to CEO. We are delighted to have you with us, sir. With this, we start our podcast.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure.
First, what was your first business venture? How did you get the idea? How did you fund your venture?
Right. My first business, this is when I'm working, the Beshak is my second startup. The first startup that I did was way back in 2006, 2005, 2006 actually. And that was a time when privatization of insurance was happening. Insurance has started privatization in terms of like around 2000, 2001. And there was an explosion of a lot of new products because of private companies coming into picture. On the other hand, IIDA had come in, and also there were new licenses that were being given by IIDA. One of the license was a broking license. A broking license basically allows you to compare multiple products and was primarily used for corporate insurance. So it was basically brokers used to go to corporate setups and basically help them with advice on insurance. We thought that we will use the broking license to help individuals. And that was the birth of what we built as Insurance Mall was the name of that platform or the startup. We launched that in around 2007. And it was the first insurance comparison platform in the country. There was no platform in the comparison domain in insurance at that time. You asked about funding. Way back in 2005, 2006, there were hardly any ways to get VC funding. Most of the companies that existed were private equity companies, and probably they were companies that were funding the large business houses. So funding was not so common in 2005, 2006, 2007. It all picked up, I think, after 2010, 2012. So this was a bootstrap venture. We built it on our own through a set of co-founders.
Good afternoon, sir.
Hi, good afternoon.
We know like getting the right team is fundamental for any business. So
Right.
how did you identify the co-workers, co-founders who can share the same vision?
Right. So usually co-founders are colleagues or friends whom you have worked with in the past, right? People whom you have done a very, very deep and very, very vast, big projects, and where you've understood each other and have set up a bandwidth or a wavelength between you and that person, right? You've also fought with that person. You also finally come to terms with the complementary talents that individuals have, and you've also gone out and had a lot of, you've hung out with these people, right, in your life. So typically the way I have looked at it, most of the times co-founders are people whom you have worked in the past, or you've probably been ex-colleagues, or you've been friends who have a common vision and want to solve a problem that both of them are excited about. There are obviously formal ways of finding a co-founder also, but most of the times what I have seen, co-founders are ex-colleagues or friends who have a common interest. So I think the best way to find a person who can be a co-founder is to look at if you share similar values, and you look at your lens to life is the same, meaning in terms of how you look at risk, how you look at opportunity, how you look at overall things in life. And plus there should be a complementing talent, right? Meaning someone could be from tech, someone could be from analytics, someone could have a product mindset, someone could actually look at business dhanda and work on that side, who could have a sales background. So typically it usually once you have figured out you want to do a startup and you want to become a founder, you end up finding such people because you keep talking about such things, and you end up finding people who also have common topics, right? So that's how typically you look for and identify co-founders.
So coming to the next question, so can you
Yeah.
throw some light on the journey of starting Beshak?
Right. So, Beshak has a very interesting story actually. So, I've been in the insurance space, like I said, online insurance distribution space for almost like 14, 15 years, and tried multiple models, models which were bootstrapped, models which were dedicated to health insurance, models which were basically uh, uh, working under a very large broker which was doing extremely good business and was cash rich and was able to build very large platforms, and models where we were working with a VC funded startup which had the best of the talent, we had the license, we had the enough amount of resources to be able to do everything. So the the model that I saw in distribution side was that although it was solving for a lot of problems, like it was solving for comparison ka problem, because we were in the business of distribution of multiple products. It was solving the problem of basically helping customers find the right product to a certain extent. What I saw specifically is a gap in terms of the kind of information that is available to the customer. So typically, a distributor, as how much ever intent he or she has to basically solve for a customer, the content or the information or the advice that a distributor will give will always be colored on two things. One is the incentive model, and the second will be the relationships that we have with insurance companies. While I was building coverfox with a couple of other really bright folks, what I realized is that while we had the intent of doing great kind of customer centric stuff, we ended up slightly gradually getting influenced by the model, the incentive structure, the revenue structure, and also the relationships that we shared with insurance companies. That's where the idea came to my mind that this problem, the problem of a customer needing independent information to be able to find the right insurance plan for his or her family. An insurance plan is not like you're buying a mobile phone which you're going to throw away after 2 3 years. An insurance plan is typically something that you are going to spend almost 20 25K a year for almost your lifetime, right? So it's a very serious decision. On the other hand, the information that was available or the people that were available for customers were either having some kind of influence in terms of the revenue model as well as the relationships with insurance companies. So we thought about how do we ensure that we create a model that solves for customers getting independent information, independent resources with respect to insurance, right? That's where we thought about the idea of Beshak. Beshak was a model and is a model where we have no influence with any insurance company. We've built a model which is 100% independent, and we are solving the problem of information that is needed for a customer to be able to buy the right product from the market, right? A product that he's going to spend almost 20 25K and over 40 45 years, right? So that's how we basically came to the idea of Beshak, which is basically there are multiple models that exist in the world, but none of the models are giving you influence free or conflict free information about insurance which will help you make decisions. Beshak today is the only platform where you can uh, get unbiased independent information about insurance products without worrying that there is some linkage to revenue models or something like that.
Sir, for a startup to success, we know it is important to have a good team. So the next question is how to build more resilient and agile teams in the initial phase of startup, and how important it is to have such teams. Could you explain in case of Beshak?
Right. So I had a mentor way back in 2008, 2009. I lost touch with him when I did something else in the life. But he used to say one thing is that it's never the journey or the direction. It's always the people who are you with, right? So according to me, team and people you are with is the most crucial part of starting a startup. If you don't have the right people who are equally passionate about the problem that you're trying to solve and who don't share a wavelength with you, everything else can fall apart, right? Because see, when we built Beshak, we built it at a time right before the pandemic, right? It happened. We started Beshak on 2nd March 2020, and pandemic hit us around between 15th and 20th of March 2020. At that time, obviously, we could have had major issues if we didn't have the right people in place, and we didn't have the right people who were believers about what we are doing. So very clearly, having the right team is super important, right? Like I always said earlier also, that ex-colleagues, people whom you have worked on large projects, people whom you've had relationships beyond work, in terms of you hang around with those people whom you have fought with also, right, in terms of solving for a problem, you've had intense discussions with and solved problems and seen impact together. Those are the people whom you should evaluate for starting a startup, right? Also, all said and done, always remember that basically humans are going to be humans, right? And all said and done, there will be conflicts after you start a company. There will be change in goals of people that you work with. There could be certain situations where you will find people who were aligned earlier and now are not aligned. But you have to believe, right? And you have to stay on course. Uh, uh, you have to be okay with such things happening and look at the overall picture, right? Uh, it's not a rosy picture that I want to paint on this podcast. You may be able to identify people who want to work with you and want to partner with you, and you have a passionate goal that you're following. But at the same time, there could be situations that you should be prepared for, where the goals or the vision can change, right? And so be prepared for that. Find the best people that you can find whom you want to work with day, night, weekends, everything. But be prepared that there could be situations that could arise where you may not be able to work with such people, because goals can change, courses can change, right? Situations, environment can change. So that's what my answer would be. Resilient.
So, as you mentioned that evaluation of the ideas is very important, especially in insurance domain. So, how, according to you, can entrepreneurs evaluate their ideas?
Yeah. So there are two ways to look at it. Like people like me, the way we looked at it is that I was in love with the problem, right? And I wanted to solve this problem, and so I pursued it without looking at a lot of without calculating how this is going to work. I just jumped into it. So that is one, is basically pure conviction, and a very strong passion over solving that problem for a larger number of people and creating impact. That is one way of evaluating ideas, which is a little foolish way of looking at stuff, but it has worked many times. So that is one way of looking at it. And second way is obviously the calculative way of looking at it, which is basically that look at how VCs look at businesses, right? Which is basically how big is the market, uh, what kind of team you can set up with this market, what are the problems in that market, uh, is there enough people who are ready to pay for your solution, and then evaluate your idea. So there is a scientific way of evaluating an idea, and there is a slightly foolish way of evaluating an idea and jumping into a startup, which is basically where you're just too passionate about solving a problem and you just want to work on that idea and create impact. So that's how you look at it. Either you are calculative and mathematical and you want to look at it very in a very mathematical way, or you look at it in a very scientific way. And the other way is the art way, where you are basically very clear that this is what you want to work for even for the next 10 years, 15 years in your life, and this is what you feel you have a lot of conviction to solve for, and hence you jump into it.
Sir, as COVID has left to see everlasting impact on everyone's life and how business do their work. So, how COVID forced us to adapt several technological advancements in many industries, which otherwise could not have been happened in another 5+ years. Could you explain in the case of insurance industry?
Yeah. So insurance industry, I think, was completely shaken up because of the pandemic. They clearly saw that there was an opportunity for a lot of demand that got created during the pandemic, but they did not have the right mechanisms. A lot of insurers did not have the right mechanisms to be able to reach out to customers when actually selling policies or distributing products, right? So it was a wake up call for the entire insurance industry, specifically for traditional insurance players. Like for an example, LIC never had an app for their advisors to self uh, assist themselves and basically distribute products ever, right? They never had an app, but they launched an app called Anand in the middle of the pandemic when they realized that now stuff cannot be done without technology, and people are not able to reach out to branch offices anymore, and traditional insurance agents are also running and going to, let's say, private players and taking licenses because they want to be enabled on a technology so that they can remotely help customers and help them buy policies. So I think an entire industry woke up, is what I feel. People who were traditionals and who were naysayers and who felt that the industry will always work in the traditional way and the distribution way, and policies will be only sold through banks and through individual agents who reach out to neighborhood customers. I think the belief has changed. I think, and a lot of work has happened on that side now. Also, what has happened is on the claim side, a lot of innovation came into picture. So I think customers earlier were not able to reach out. So I was saying that customers earlier were not able to solve for being able to reach out to a branch office and make a claim. Most insurance companies today now allow for uploading of claim documents on their app or on their website, or even send it through a WhatsApp message to the insurance company to solve for problems on a remote basis. So a lot of face-to-face stuff is moving towards technology, and that's the first step that insurers are taking. I think a lot of more changes we'll see because, like I said, the pandemic actually woke up the industry.
Sir, do you think it is beneficial to have corporate experience while establishing a business? If yes, how your corporate experience helped you?
So I feel that corporate experience actually, in a way, corrupts you, right? Because a lot of things are available for you, and you don't realize that when you till you do your own startup that those things were available for you. A lot of things are invisible in a corporate, like how HR functions, how admin functions, how finance functions. All that looks very invisible to you when you are a corporate in a corporate, right? So if you're looking at starting a business or a startup, you should work with a startup and try to work very closely with founders if possible, right? What it will give you is that you will know real insights in terms of what are the problems that you are going to face when you start on your own, right? Like when I did my first startup in way back in 2006 2007, like I said, we came from a very large brand, right? And we thought that people loved us and people were influenced by us. But as soon as our visiting card changed and the logo disappeared, the logo of that large flashy company that we were working with disappeared, the response that we were getting from people also changed, from customers, from partners, from agents, from insurance companies, from everybody, right? So it then is a very big reality check that you could get. So the way I look at it, it is beneficial to have work experience before you start, but the good thing to do would be to work very closely with founders wherever you go with a startup, if you are eventually looking at making your own startup. That's what I did. Like when I worked with coverfox, the reason I spent so much time in coverfox was because I knew that I will get to work very closely with a founder, and I will also be able to see things with his lens and also the VC's lens, because I was also closely interacting with the investors and everybody else. So that's what I would suggest if anybody is looking at starting a business.
So, Beshak is enjoying considerable success. So, what are the future plans for the Beshak? Let's say in upcoming five years.
Right. So honestly, it sounds very good when you say this, that Beshak is enjoying considerable success. At Beshak, we still feel that we are a struggling player and we are still budding as a startup. We've still to achieve a lot. We will continue with our mission of basically solving for the trust problem that exists in the insurance space, right? Where information is not easily available. It's a very, very large problem. It may probably take 2 to 3 years for us, another 2 3 years. We'll complete 3 years in March next year. So our focus will be obviously to solve for trust problem for the next couple of years, so that customers are able to make worry-free, confident insurance decisions instead of worrying about having a FOMO while buying a policy that, oh, am I buying the right policy? Will I get a claim? So can we solve all those worries of a customer is something that will continue to be our mission for the next couple of years. The goal will be to see how we can build the right community of people and the right set of resources for customers to be able to make decisions. So it is a very hard problem that we are solving because nobody in the world has solved this problem so far, and hence we will continue that journey. To be honest, I feel we are 20%, 25% there to the kind of work that we want to see and the impact that we want to create, and hence, like I said, we've just started.
So, who do you think that who has been the biggest influence in your life, and what role did your family play in your success?
Yeah, so I think the biggest influence I have had in my life is not a single person, but I come from a Marwadi community. I come from Rajasthan and I come from a Marwadi community. So I think that community had a very large influence on me because the concept of money and concept of growth and concept of making it big was always there around me, right? So I think the biggest influence I had was that in that community, which I'm talking about, the Marwadi community, not taking risk and not being part of a business is considered to be that you are retired, right? To a large extent, not today, but I'm talking about when I was young. Today, there are a lot of people obviously who are also doing great in jobs, and I'm not actually denigrating people who are doing jobs. I'm just saying that was my influence, that I saw that is something I saw on a day-to-day basis. The concept of basically being financially savvy, taking calculated risks, and doing business dhanda is something that influence came from people around me who were basically from the Marwadi community. So I would look at that as being my largest influence in my younger times.
Yeah, sir, how would you describe your life in 20s and what do you enjoy most about being an entrepreneur?
My life in 20s, a very interesting question, but I was there were only two things in my life when I was in 20s. I worked really hard. I worked my ass off during my entire 20s. I don't regret it because I think I did a startup when I was 24, 25. So even before that, the concept of working hard was something that was in me always because I felt that this was the time when I could learn as much as possible. And I'm carrying that even today. So I still think I am in my 20s only because I'm around people who are in their 20s. The other thing that I did all my life was in the 20s was watching movies, Hindi movies. So these are the only things I remember. Yeah.
I think many viewers can relate to that. So, like you have been an entrepreneur now for more than 15 years.
Yeah.
So, how would you describe the joy, or what is the most enjoyable part of being an entrepreneur?
Right. So you get to work with the people you want to work with. Right. I think that is something which gives you joy on a day-to-day basis because you're working with people whom you have aligned visions with, right? Or even you're working with people who may not have exactly aligned visions, but you're learning on a day-to-day basis because they come from different backgrounds. And the biggest joy is obviously that every day you're creating something, right? And you're building something which is creating impact in the world gradually, maybe eventually, but it creates impact. So I think the joy that I see is that we are able to, when I was working with corporates and I got bored with working with corporates very soon was because A, it remained a thankless job, and B, a lot of my fortunes were defined by who my boss was and whether I had good relationships with that boss. Uh, as an entrepreneur, I think I'm in control of my fortunes to the best possible extent. Obviously, there are external factors that I cannot control, but I have much better control over what I want to do in life, how I want to live my life, because I think a large part of your life is lived in offices while working, right? I don't want to do something, I never wanted to do something that I don't enjoy every day and I don't feel like coming to work every day. So creation, working with the right kind of people whom you enjoy working with every day, and looking forward to working, right, and solving for problems. I think these are the key areas that give joy to me.
So, the last question of this round, first round is, what one piece of advice you would give to the young aspiring entrepreneurs out there?
Right. So before you start, according to me, you should always have two, three things in place. One is that always ensure you take good work experience with another founder who has been building and probably an early stage company, which where you can work very closely with with founders is something that I would always recommend, because that gives you most valuable insights into what can go wrong while building a startup. And give 2 3 years is what I would suggest, at least 2 years, to understand the entire life cycle of the startup. Right, as that startup could fail, it could do very well. Whatever happens, you will get extremely good learnings, and these are invaluable learnings while you are being paid. Right, so that's one thing that I would look for. Second is that I would recommend very strongly to not look at opportunities from a lens of a venture capitalist, and which is a lot trending today, where people look at business ideas only from a point of view that अब ये चल रहा है, right? This is working today, and इसके ऊपर funding मिल रही है. A lot of ventures are getting funded in this specific industry, and a lot of money is chasing this specific space. Only looking at that, you chase an idea, right? Things can change overnight, right? And suddenly, because you have poor conviction on the idea and you just chase the idea because you were uh, largely looking at chasing valuations or chasing basically funding, your conviction will also drop as fast as it was you got that conviction, right? So always work on problems that you think you can work for a long sustainable time without giving up, and always ensure that you take experience before you start up with working with founders whom you think you trust and whom you admire, or you think this is a company that will give me those learnings that will help me build my startup in the future. So these are the two suggestions that I would have for anybody who's looking at starting up.
So we have some rapid fire questions for you.
Yeah, sure.
So who is your favorite sports person and business leader?
Yeah, so my favorite sports person will be Mahendra Singh Dhoni. On the business side, I am very fascinated with Wembu of Zoho.
What was your favorite book?
So this may sound a little boring to you guys, because you guys are from a different life stage. But today I am into reading a lot about awareness and spirituality. So I read a lot about books which are in that zone.
According to you, what is one quality every entrepreneur should have?
Yeah, so if you guys follow Naval Ravikant, he keeps talking about something called specific knowledge. Right? Specific knowledge is where you've combined probably two good things that you are skilled at and combined them. And would suggest anybody who's a budding entrepreneur is to look at building specific knowledge and look up on Google. If you don't have never heard about this, look up on the concept of specific knowledge explained by Naval Ravikant.
And like, what is the one quote in life that you have always stood by?
Yeah, so there is not actually, there are three major learnings that were actually as part of a speech that Steve Jobs gave at in one of the lectures that he gave. I forgot the place where, I think it was in Stanford, if I'm not wrong, which I have a strong influence on.
Thank you, sir. That brings an end to this wonderful session. And thanks for us sharing, spending time with us, and sharing your experience with us. And we hope we have many more interactions in the future as well. Thank you, sir.
Sure. Hope this was useful for you guys. Thank you so much. Bye.